from the 31st Annual Virginia EMS Symposium in Norfolk, Virginia. This is the EMS Squadcast with Tim Perkins, a podcast dedicated to topics and issues relevant to the world of emergency medical services today. Find us online at EMSWorld.com/squadcast or email us at squadcast@EMSWorld.com. And now, here's Tim Perkins.
Hi! We're here, live, with video. This is what my face looks like. I can't believe it either. Okay, we're here from the Virginia EMS Symposium in Norfolk. Dan thought that this would be a good idea to record this with video. I've been trying to tell him since the beginning that I actually have a face for podcasting, but yeah, he seems intent on recording me with video. So we're going to try something different here. We're trying it with video. You're going to be able to download it with audio only or video. And before we go too much further, I have to say, hi, Mom. How's it going? So this is the last of the road trips. We've come to the end of the road trips for 2010. The Dallas trip, the Norfolk trip number 1, the Norfolk trip number 2. Dan still hasn't printed off the t-shirts, so for those of you who have asked about the t-shirts, we don't have them yet. You can catch us on EMS World, you can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Twitter, you can download us from iTunes, and now, finally, we have a page on EMS United, so you can go to EMSUnited.com/the EMS Squadcast, and you can like us there just as much as you like us on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. So, we're here in the exhibit hall. As you can tell, they brought in a brass band or something just for us, so that we have more to contend with other than just the the regular crap. Hi, it was Lee Burns giving me a kiss. Thank you, Lee. Welcome back. And so Tim has just all of a sudden been thrown right off. One of the other things I really wanted to talk about, which is a real hot-button topic, or at least it has been within the past few weeks, is the election. This is totally an apolitical show. I'm not about to say whether you should vote Democrat, vote Republican. It doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned. What EMS providers really need to be cognizant of is how those elections impact legislation, how that impacts health care. The Obama-endorsed health care bill is now in jeopardy of being declined now because of the change in Congress. I know that a couple years ago, Elizabeth Dole from North Carolina had some EMS-related legislation, and she didn't stay in office long enough for that legislation to go through. So I'm not saying that you need to register to vote. I'm not saying that you need to go out and vote, but you kind of need to have an idea of how the political climate in the United States affects healthcare. Live, semi-live, on video, in your face, from the Virginia EMS Symposium in Norfolk, Virginia. Okay, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. How many people are here? How many attendees do you have? How many years in a row has it been here in Norfolk? I know it's been here in Norfolk for quite a few years in a row, and give the listeners a little bit of that information.
Okay, be glad to. This year we have over 1,600 registrants for the 31st Annual Virginia EMS Symposium. This is our 12th year in a row here in Norfolk in this venue, and actually then it would be 14 out of the last 16 years actually, but the 12th consecutive year.
Okay. When I interviewed Scott Cravens from EMS World back at EMS Expo in Dallas at the end of September, I asked him about the benefit of moving their conference around. They move their conference around all over the United States instead of keeping it in one place. Being that Symposium has been here in Norfolk for a number of years, what do you consider the benefit of that to be as opposed to moving it around the state?
Tim, I think one of the benefits is continuity in terms of the venue, and because we are intensive in terms of the classes we offer. We offer over 240 classes over a 4.5-day period. And because of that number of classes, it takes a great deal of logistics and operations to pull it off. And it also takes the support from the local community and the local fire and EMS department here in Norfolk. And they have really stepped up to the plate and provide logistics from everything from helping us with registration to doing transportation to out-of-state faculty members that fly in, picking them up at the airport, returning them to the airport, and just a lot of things that people would not know, the hundreds and thousands of details, and we get that support here. Plus, another thing, the people that attend, they now have a comfort level in terms of this area. They've gotten to know it. We see every year that they're getting out in the streets of Norfolk, kind of spreading further, if you will, because they're getting used to the restaurants, they're getting used to the other places to go, and there's a comfort level. And finally, this particular hotel and convention center is a good fit for us because our emphasis is on training, and we're able to accommodate 20 to 25 concurrent classes at a time, and this conference center allows us to do that. Very few conference centers and hotels allow that opportunity. I can kind of consider, even though it's a state EMS Symposium, it's kind of a national offering as well, because our program committee, we all look for the best and brightest instructors, not only here in Virginia but across the country, and we bring people in that are proven instructors and people that are teaching at other state conferences and at other national conferences. So we're bringing in the who's who and the names, top names here to Virginia to teach for us. So you don't have to leave Virginia, you don't have to leave this symposium to be exposed to all the national speakers that you would think that you would find only at a national venue.
Right. I would say that if you looked at the EMS Expo catalog and looked at the Virginia Symposium catalog, you'd see a lot of the same names.
Oh,
for
absolutely,
sure.
No doubt about it.
For sure. Scott, I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about something that, of course, is should be on the minds of pretty much every EMS provider, but it especially has affected our office, and it was a health-related event that you had to go through over the summer, and I was wondering if you could share that with the listeners and kind of give us a little bit of perspective on what you went through and why it's important for EMS providers to kind of know the road that you walked.
Okay, sure. In July, I had triple bypass surgery, and it was somewhat of a surprise to me. I have been followed by a physician for about 4 years now, having high cholesterol, and that's important that people go to the doctor on a regular basis and know what your numbers are, what your lipid protein numbers are, your HDL and LDL and triglycerides, because if you don't know what your number is, you may be a walking time bomb, so to speak.
Right.
So being followed by a physician, I had a regular checkup, and it led to a stress test, and that stress test showed some changes in my perfusion, cardiac perfusion, which then led to a cardiac cath, and that showed some further narrowing in my coronary artery. So the decision was made to do a bypass, and I was fairly much asymptomatic. I didn't have any chest pain. It wasn't really short of breath, and I think it's really critical and important for people to understand that you may have transient chest pain or shortness of breath that you dismissed to other things, but don't do that, because you need to listen to what your body's telling you, and go see a doctor and do that on a regular basis so that you can make sure that you are as healthy as you can be. If you're smoking, stop, because adults who smoke die 13 to 14 years earlier than those that don't smoke. So those are some very simple things you can do and have some immediate impact on your health and well-being.
Yeah, I know that that the two of you have been involved with the National EMS Memorial Service when it was in Roanoke. You've both been involved, of course. I can't ever talk about it enough, the EMS Memorial Bike Ride, and unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the people that are being memorialized are folks that have had some kind of heart attack, cardiac arrest or something cardiac related, that they end up on the wall. And I think it's good that I mean, obviously it's terrible that this happened to you, but at least it's helped you to help educate other people on trying to be a little bit more heart healthy. So
exactly.
I'm sure that probably the AHA is a great resource for people to find out more information on leading a little bit more of a heart healthy lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, there are a number of resources out there, and I would suggest that you look at those and take it to heart.
Right.
What we're telling you is you probably heard over and over again, and please don't dismiss it, because it's critically important for your health and longevity, because every day you read about people that are dropping on duty, having massive heart attacks and not living. And I feel very fortunate in the fact that I caught mine early on. I could do something to intervene before I'm walking down the street one day and I have the big one.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always to have you all on. Gary, do you remember the website for the Office of EMS in case people need more information on the Office of EMS?
You did this to me during the last
That's right.
podcast.
I wanted to touch it.
www.bdh.virginia.gov/OEMS.
You got it.
Can I add one thing, though?
Go ahead.
To
Sure.
Scott's comments, because and the National EMS Memorial Service, this year, 2010, was the first year in many years that there were more inductees into the National EMS Memorial Service from cardiac arrest than from medevac crashes.
Yeah.
And also on that list were a large number of EMS providers that were killed from gunshot wounds and also motor vehicle crashes.
Yep.
So I think that's an important thing for everyone to know, and
Right.
we need to do a better job.
Absolutely. Now, this is a real specific topic that that you guys are presenting on, and I was kind of wondering what the genesis of it was, how you guys came to come up with an idea that talks about a topic that people probably don't really think about all that much, to really make that kind of comparison between how males lead agencies versus how females do, and probably what's intrinsic to each and stuff like that. So give us a little idea of how that all came together.
Sure. It actually came about that we were requested to submit a proposal for a conference for women in the fire service. Mm-hmm. And they wanted something about gender and leadership. And when we started discussing it, we both came to the conclusion as we were talking with them that leadership has no gender. Mm-hmm. And that it's a set of qualities, it's a set of traits, it's a set of skills. And that anybody can work on developing these skills. Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses, and it's realizing those. And so it was a novel idea with two people from different states, different departments, different genders, to discuss this issue and see what type of discussions and interactions with the class that we could develop. And giving the class, we gave it earlier today. We had a great interaction and different views, and we discussed cultural approaches, cultural attitudes, and the traits that we think that leaders need to develop. And really understanding that when we ask the class, give us ideas of what leadership is to you, and you get words like inspirational, ethical, honest, integrity. None of those have we ever had somebody say male or female.
Right.
And so it really challenges the assumption, does leadership have a gender?
Right. EMS World magazine has started an online column specifically directed at women in EMS, and Tracy Loskar, who's the author, the columnist, her first column pretty much gave a kind of a baseline. And one of the things that she said in that piece that's kind of stuck with me is she kind of had an impromptu or informal polling of a lot of people that she works with, interacts with, volunteers with. And essentially she asked, would you rather have a man in the ambulance or a woman? And the overwhelming response was, it doesn't matter as long as they can do the job. And do you guys think that that applies to leadership positions as well as operational positions?
Absolutely. It's not a matter of who you are. It's really what you can bring to the table. And what's important is you want the right person doing the right thing in the right job. And so gender has no bearing whatsoever. It's absolutely critical to have the right person in the right position.
Okay.
I think you can have a male with no credibility, and you can have a female with no credibility,
right.
And you can have the exact opposite.
Now, Jenny, my next question is just for you. Obviously, you have a pretty extensive EMS history, a pretty good EMS career, and I'm not saying that to date you at all in any way, but you've been able to accomplish a lot in your career as an EMS provider and as somebody who's working both the fire side and the EMS side. What kind of advice would you give to either somebody who wants to get in or somebody who's already in that really wants to take that next step? What would you say are good motivating factors for people to really get their hands dirty?
I think you have to have the passion for what you're doing. Whether that's fire, whether that's EMS, whether that's construction, you have to have a passion for it. And you have to be willing to be dedicated to it. Because it's not just about putting in the hours and going home and it stops there.
Right.
It's about showing dedication, which is that continual learning throughout your career. And I think as experiences grow, I think you begin to realize that you don't see, I'm in a male-dominated field, but I don't look in when I walk into a room and automatically count the females and the males that are in there.
Right.
They're my peers. I'm there because I have a responsibility, I have a role, I have a duty, and I'm there to do a job. If there are attitudes that females aren't welcome, that's not my issue.
Right.
That's the other's individual's issue, and that's their baggage they got to work through. It's
Right.
not mine. So I think if you're interested to get into a role like this, you have to be willing to accept that. You'll never make everybody happy. I don't care if you're male or female. There's going to be people that you won't make happy.
Right.
And I think getting burdened down with that, you'll just drive yourself crazy.
Right.
I think if you start to think about gender, it gets in your way.
Right.
And so here's my real concern is that in the world of today, in the practice of healthcare, there's a disconnect. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get a disease. Well, then you can protect yourself by doing these things, but you don't do them.
Right.
I'm afraid I could get H1N1 or the flu. Well, here's a vaccine that you can take. I don't want that. So why is it that we can't seem to bring these things together and do what's not only in our own best interest, but the best interest of our patients
Right.
we serve in our community?
Right.
It was almost the 11th hour to get it reenacted. It was put back exactly with the same language it originally had. Mm-hmm. Now, we missed another opportunity, not only to get it as a standalone law, but to update the list of diseases. Mm-hmm. The good thing is the Congress has said, well, since it's back, we're considering a new law and we need a new list.
Right.
So here's our opportunity to take some of the things in there that don't make sense, like rabies, and put in things that do make sense, like chickenpox
Right.
and pertussis, which are a real problem right now. Mm-hmm. So we can work toward doing that. We also need a new person to be our liaison between the Congress and the CDC.
Okay.
We need a new person to be appointed to that. And we believe there is one, but it isn't real official, so that should be
Okay.
coming out soon.
Okay.
And then we all need to work on getting to input to the list.
Right.
So, part of the the discussion in my presentation today was, what to do when you do get that phone call, how to become involved, and what the expectation is, and for those types of events. And for the most part, EMS is playing a support role to the security detail. And you really, You're absolutely right. Each of them are different. Each of them are unique. Each of them have their own parameters that are associated with the event. At the same time, there also may be external factors that are occurring due to intelligence, time constraints, limitations as far as the venue that really make these things extremely difficult. I would really say that the key to these events is becoming an active participant with the security detail, whether it be the Secret Service or some people bring in their own security protection or forces, or local law enforcement that may be providing the security for that. But taking the lead from them, being involved, working with each other becomes absolutely critical in these plans. From time to time, these dignitaries do visit. Could even be the governor of Virginia, do visit other parts of the state, and and so what does these small agencies do, and how they deal with it, and how do they address it? That's what the purpose of today's discussion was all about. What to anticipate, what to expect, and also not to be afraid, but also to kind of embrace it, but also understand it's going to be taxing on the agency during that period of time.
Every agency, regardless of where you are, what EMS system you're in, should have operational policies that pretty much cover everything. But do they cover everything is the bigger question. My next guest is a gentleman who has brought a presentation to the symposium that kind of talks about some of the landmines that agencies commonly encounter that may or may not be covered by their operational policies, but probably should have a policy on.
I don't think that technology is a problem. Everything is a tool. Okay? The ability for me to reach into my pocket right now and take out an iPhone and do research and say, I want to research a drug or an interaction or a disease that I've never heard of before. And even as limited as Wikipedia is, to say, I want to go pull something up very quickly in the field, instantaneously, is a capability that is phenomenal and is something that is light years ahead of what I was able to do on my Palm Pilot when I bought my Palm Pilot in 1997.
Right.
I think it's a fantastic tool. I don't think that technology has gone too far. I think, unfortunately, the Internet also provides us with the ability to make our mistakes much more public to a wider audience, unfortunately, than we used to be able to. If you used to do something bad and it was stupid before with a patient chart or a picture or anything else like that, it involved something that was a piece of paper and I had to go show it to somebody. And now I can take a picture and post it out on the Internet. In 60 seconds, 500 people will see it. And 10 minutes after that, it'll be 100,000 people.
Right.
I think the issue, frankly, is that we haven't caught up with this from an ethical and a moral standpoint. And we haven't taught our people what's acceptable behavior, because the norms of behavior change. When I started in EMS, you'd not wear latex gloves, and that was acceptable. You'd get gloves on, blood on your hands. And for most EMS providers that started practicing since the late 80s, early 90s, that's like an insane concept that you would not wear latex gloves on a call and expose to bloodborne pathogens.
Right.
The same way I think this has evolved into a place that we just need to catch up to. By creating a policy that no one's going to follow, you create liability for yourself, because you're creating a standard of care that someone's going to look at later on. Let's say you're using that cell phone on a call, you're doing something you're not supposed to be. You have a policy that says you're not supposed to carry that, you're not enforcing it, they are carrying it. At the end of the day, the agency is going to own that liability because of that.
Right.
So it hurts you in two different ways.
Now, I want to go back to something that you touched on at the beginning of what you just said. Is this a situation where it absolutely has to be a zero tolerance policy?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely think this is a zero tolerance policy, because one time you're on Matt Lauer's interviewing you. The downside risk to the agency, the downside risk to the individual, to the patient, frankly, it's too offensive of a concept. I mean, look, I got a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old. I don't want to ever even think about the concept of them dying in a car accident. But to be notified about that and to see them on the scene by the emergency responders, it is the polar opposite of what I think we're entrusted to do in this world. I mean, I don't care. You've been trained on it. You've been told about it. You've seen the incidents. You've seen what happens in the real world when this gets out. Zero tolerance.
Okay.
I'm telling you right up front. And it's not like, ha, 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 I'm going to spring this on you. It's zero tolerance walking in the door. Here's the policy. I'm going to let you know up front. I'm going to get the union's buy-in if there's labor in this. I'm going to tell you up front. Who's going to fight that? Yeah, I should be allowed to post this on Facebook and post a picture of a patient or some horrible thing on Facebook and get away with it once. There's no middle ground on that one.
Right. Okay, so we're finished. The exhibit hall is about to close, and they're actually, people are packing up around us. I think they're actually going to kick us out of here if we don't hurry up and get done. So I'm going to try to talk fast. And, of course, I'm Tim. That's Lieutenant Dan off camera. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on Twitter. You can catch us via EMS United. Download us from EMS World. It's www.EMSWorld.com/Squadcast. You can email us at squadcast@EMSWorld.com. You can download us off of iTunes. You can call Dan on his cell phone. Check the website, and we'll show you how to get in touch with him personally. Dan, I am tired. My voice is killing me. We will be back in touch with you very, very soon, back in the Cygnus Business Media Studios in Beltsville, Maryland. Thank you to Brady, my intro guy. He's the godfather of morning radio in Central Virginia. You can catch him at classicrock969.com. Also, the musical interludes you've enjoyed are courtesy of Ryan McCormick. You can catch him at ryanmccormick.net. That's RHYNEMCCORMICK.net. So, finally, for Lieutenant Dano, I'm Tim Perkins, being heckled by people behind the camera. We'll catch you next time on the Squadcast. And EMS, keep doing what you're doing. So long.